Hey guys, welcome to Hanging Out with Dee. I'm Dee Harris, and today is our season 5 finale. And today we're hanging out with some phenomenal women, and we're talking about phenomenal women, the suffragettes, amazing women who are also alive in our lifetime. And I'm welcoming Christy to the set. Hey, Christy.
Hi, Dee. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Christy is a Kathwari honor student at WestCon. We'll be hearing a little bit from your friends later in the show about some women who inspire them.
Yes.
And then we're also going to hear from the amazing Kimberly Wilson. She is the creator of the musical one-woman show called A Journey. And she's also former Miss Black Minnesota, so that's going to be fun to hear from her later on. All right, Christy, so tell us a little bit, tell me, what's the Kathwari program?
Western Connecticut State University has this honors program at our school.
Yeah.
And it started really small. I just joined a year ago, but it only had probably 100 students in it. Mm-hmm. And over the last few years, like 2-3 years, we've been growing, and we have almost 300 to 400 now. And last spring, we got a donation from the CEO of Ethan Allen.
Yeah, Farouk Kathwari.
Yes. And he donated $1 million to the program.
$1 million.
Yeah, so it's really exciting for us because now we have all these, we can afford all these new technologies to better improve ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Yeah, shout out to Mr. Farouk Kathwari.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. All right, so you have a fun story. Well, not really fun, but an interesting story about the university you went to before.
Definitely.
Talk about it.
Well, I transferred to Western Connecticut State from URI in Rhode Island, and when I was there, I was 18. I just wanted to find friends and fit in, have that college experience. And I had these 2 roommates who were just a nightmare.
Oh my God.
One of them was just always on drugs.
Yeah.
Just coming in late, like always on drugs every week. She'd just brag about it, psychedelics, all this stuff, and I was
horrible.
It's the beginning of school. I'm trying to do well in school,
and this is what you have to deal with.
She's coming in at 4 a.m. every night, slamming the door, and like making food for herself. And then the other one, she had a baby home in South Carolina who was 6 months old at the time, so she left her baby to go to college. Yeah. And then she found out she was pregnant again. So she was not only like suffering from withdrawal,
from missing her baby, but she's like, oh my God, I'm pregnant again.
She's pregnant again.
Yeah.
So between the 2 of them, I was in between them like,
I don't like this mom.
I'm just trying to have a normal experience.
Roommates from hell. Well, I'm glad you got to move. So you had this story about opportunity that you got to go to Argentina.
Yes, that was like my main goal for college. Even since I was young, I always thought like one thing I want to do is go study abroad. Yeah. My mom did that, and it was one of the best experiences of her life. She always talks about it. Yeah. So I always wanted that for myself. So I applied through my school, and I just was set on Argentina for some reason. There was something drawing me to go to Argentina, of all places. I guess I was studying about South America a little bit.
Yeah.
So I went, and I met some of the most amazing people I've ever, I just had a whole group of positive people always around me. Yeah. Yeah. And it was the most transformative period of my life.
I think it's so beautiful, even though you didn't speak the same language.
Oh yeah.
That it was so powerful.
I went in with 0 Spanish at all, and well, I thought I knew Spanish because I took classes in high school, but that did nothing. That served me no purpose. So, yeah, I learned the language and came out semi-fluent.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was crazy. It was really hard, but it was.
So do you remember any Spanish? Do you
yes,
remember?
I have to practice.
Can you say like hi to some people? We do have a lot of viewers from Brazil and Venezuela and Spain. What do you want to say to the people? Then you have to tell us what you said.
All right. ¿Cómo están todos? soy Cristi y no fui a Venezuela, pero en Sudamérica fui a Chile, Perú, Brasil y Argentina.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. What did you say?
I just said I went to
Chile.
Peru, Chile, Brazil, and Argentina.
That is so hot. Give me the first high five. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, guys. We are going to hear a little bit from your friends of the woman who inspired them.
They're
and
great.
A little bit about the woman who inspired you. Okay. So, okay, guys. It's time for Dee's Live Questions. All right, we're going to hear from Rachel first. Throw that up, Dylan.
So Rachel's quote is, "Believe in yourself and go for it," by Emma Watson.
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, she gave me this quote, but it is so representative of Rachel as a person, because she is so driven and she makes opportunities for herself. She doesn't just wait for anything to come for her.
Yeah.
She just goes out and gets it, which is really inspiring.
Yeah, I love that. All right, let's do Alexis.
That's Alexis and her mom. Her quote is, "Be thankful for what you have, you'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have, you will never, ever have enough."
And that's a quote from Oprah.
Yes. Alexis is so humble, and as she included in her story, she was raised by a single mom, which taught her how to be grateful.
Absolutely.
And she's very humble and driven, too.
Yeah. And she was saying that she owes everything to her mom. Definitely. That is so beautiful.
Isn't it?
So beautiful, Mom. All right, and then who is your woman that inspires you?
I'm inspired by Malala from Pakistan.
Yes.
And her story is incredible, because she was shot down by the Taliban, and yet she won a Nobel Peace Prize. She's empowered so many girls to learn and go to school.
Yeah.
But her quote is, even when the whole world is silent, one voice matters.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. And then you were also talking about a professor at school who helped you too. What's her name?
Dr. Hagel Cantarella.
Yes.
She actually wrote the recommendation for me to go to Argentina, so I owe that whole experience to her.
Yes.
Honestly. And I suffer. It was hard for me to transfer schools and everything, and I had her my first semester, and she knew I wasn't really dedicated, but she's seen me grow, and she's guided me, and also let me do my own thing. But it's amazing. I owe a lot of my success in school to her. Yeah.
Shout out, Professor. Teachers are so important in molding us and helping us become our complete selves. All right, so next, guys, and say what we're going to hear from Dr. Shaw, Dr. Darla Shaw. She is a woman who got her PhD at 60 years old. What? Voted least likely to succeed, and she not only succeeded, but she's now a Justice of the Peace and a professor at Westcon. Let's hear what she has to say and say what? Professor and JP from Westcon, and she's professor of women's studies, and you're going to talk to us about the suffragettes. But before that, I want to celebrate you for having gotten your PhD at the age of 60, right?
Yes, I set goals for myself,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to just be an adjunct, and the only way I could become and work to a full professor was to get my PhD.
Yeah.
Hadn't been to school in 45 years,
Oh,
so
my
it
goodness.
certainly was not easy. And because of that, I've been teaching 59 years full-time, have no plans to retire. I'm going to use that
High
degree.
five. Use it. And
Yes.
you talked about facing age discrimination as well.
Oh, I
And being
have.
voted most likely to fail.
Yes, when I was at the University of Bridgeport, where I got my degree because of my age and my lack of mathematical statistics educational expertise, I was voted the least likely to succeed. And that spurred me on.
my
That
God.
said, I am going to show them. There were 25 in the class, and 6 of us graduated on time.
Hello. Who are the suffragettes, and why should we care in 2016?
Well, I think one of the main reasons is I just surveyed my women's studies class. 40% of my class had not registered to vote and had not voted in the last election. And I said, these women, they worked, they sacrificed, they did so much in their lives to get you the right to vote, and
Absolutely.
now you're not going to vote.
Absolutely.
And in 2020, we have 100 anniversary of the women's vote. The men had it for 200 years before that. The black men and immigrants had it 20 years before we did. So those suffragettes were so amazing.
They fought for women to get
They
the right
fought,
to vote.
they sacrificed their lives, both in here, England, and in other countries. All over the world, we're still doing that today.
Fantastic. Let's go to the first one. Lucretia Mott. Tell us about her.
Oh, Lucretia Mott was in the mid-1800s. She lived in Seneca Falls, which is in the Finger Lakes, 4 hours from here. And she just believed that what is going on? I have no right to my name. I have no right to my children, to any money that I make, to any property. If my husband dies, it goes to my son or it goes to his brother. I am just the same as a slave. I'm a second-class citizen. And sometimes it's hard to work on your own. Sometimes you need to find a buddy or a friend.
Yeah.
And she hooked up with Susan B. Anthony.
All right, let's say that one.
Oh, Susan B. Anthony. Now, unlike Lucretia, who had a family and was very busy, a lot of kids and all to take care of, Susan B. Anthony was a single woman with a lot of drive, a lot of push, and was willing to really do something about this issue. So the two of them decided, you know, there's a lot going on in England.
Yeah.
We're going to go over there because we're fighting for the abolition of slavery. We're fighting for women's rights. Let's see what's going on in England. So the two of them travel to England, and they find that they're not allowed to attend anything. They were treated so poorly. They found that it was just as bad as England as it was here.
Wow.
So the two of them came back and decided we've got to gain forces.
All right, let's look at Elizabeth.
Okay, so they hooked up with Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
Yeah.
Now, she was the one who had 7 kids. She didn't have a lot of time to protest and do these type of things, but she could write. And so she wrote the Declaration of Sentiments, which is like the Declaration of Independence, but it's for women.
Yeah.
And there were 15 rights that she talked about to such a great degree. Now, these women united with 200 others and men like Frederick Douglass, and they met regularly at the Wesleyan Church in Seneca Falls, and they did make a difference, but not a tremendous difference that anything was happening, just a little rumble. And then the second wave of people came along, and that's when we got Alice Paul.
Talk about Alice.
And Alice actually spent 30 years living in Ridgefield, Connecticut, the next town to this. Yes, she had a girls' camp there. And this woman never married, no kids, totally dedicated her life to this cause. And she said, you know what's wrong? They're being too passive. I'm a Quaker, I'm passive, but I'm going to have a big protest campaign. And she's the one, if you've seen Iron-Jawed Angels with Hilary Swank, they had this amazing pageant down in front of the Capitol. They were chained to the fences after that. They were in prison. They were force-fed. She did everything she could to get the right to vote. She finally wore down Woodrow Wilson. They got the vote, and I think she is going to be on one of the new Treasury bills.
We love that. We love that. Well, what an amazing story. We have so much to be grateful for as women, you know, the right to vote. So, Miss Kimberly Wilson, creator of a Journey musical one-woman show. You'll be doing one of 7 characters for us today.
Yes, I'll be performing Maya.
Yes.
And she's a fabulous woman to me and to so many people who, just one of those legacies that will continue.
Absolutely.
And so anyone who has seen my show or wants to book the show, they'll see that this is a strong character, but this is also one of 7.
Yes.
So I just want to reiterate that point, that there are 7 characters that show a journey,
Absolutely.
this wonderful road.
All right, we're going to see one of those characters today, Maya.
Thank you.
I'll step out.
We have overcome. We have our freedoms again. We have the freedom to live and love and to celebrate our faith. We have the freedom to raise our own babies, to be educated, to be doctors and lawyers and scientists, astronauts and authors and actors and first ladies, presidents, 2-term presidents. We have the freedom to dream and to share our dreams, to share our stories, to tell our own stories and make a living doing so. My name is Maya Angelo, and I was born April 4th, 1928 in St. Louis, Missouri. When I was 3 years old, our parents were living in Long Beach, California, and they decided to get divorced. One day, my father took me and my 5-year-old older brother, took us to the train station. He put name tags on our wrists, and my father put me and my brother alone on the train and shipped us from Long Beach, California, to live with his mother in Stamps, Arkansas. Stamps, Arkansas was a country town. Stamps is where I first tasted racial discrimination. Now, when you say taste, I did not understand why I was discriminated against just because of the color of my skin. It just left a very foul taste in my mouth. I knew that our family did nothing to deserve it. All we did was live and breathe. Now, when I was 7 years old, me and my brother got to go visit my mother, who was now living back in St. Louis, Missouri. And while we were there having a good time, my mother's boyfriend took a very unhealthy liking to me. I was 7 years old, and my mother's boyfriend physically mistreated me. It was traumatic. But I spoke that man's name in court. And after he was released from jail, my uncles beat him to death. I believe that my words had the power to kill. And I believe that with that trauma of the physical mistreatment, and the trauma of the racial discrimination, and the trauma of all of that had caused me to shut my mouth altogether. And I didn't speak to anyone. Not anyone, except my brother in private. And he didn't tell anybody. Well, my family shipped us right back to Stamps, Arkansas. They thought I had gone crazy. They thought I had lost my mind. Well, sometimes some things might make you seem crazy, but crazy I was not. One thing that helped me to remain sane is I would read a whole lot of books by great authors, by Langston and Dunbar and Du Bois and Dickens and Shakespeare and Poe. And I would listen to everything and everyone around me. Then I began to journal my own thoughts. That's when I started writing. I would listen to me, and I'd write my story on my paper for me. It wasn't until I was 13 years old that I regained my life and spoke to everyone again, everyone. Now, I credit the most wonderful, illustrious woman I know, Mrs. Bertha Flowers. Now, Mrs. Bertha Flowers was an esteemed aristocrat who lived in the black section of Stamps, Arkansas. She befriended me, and we shared our mutual love of literature and poetry. One day, Miss Flowers said to me, "Marguerite!" Oh, beloveds, that was my name before I changed it to Marguerite and to Maya, yes. She said, "Marguerite, words mean more than what is set down on paper. It takes a human voice to infuse them with shades of deeper meaning." I love me some Bertha Flowers. Not only did she get me to love the literature and reciting poetry, she got me to love my own voice, too. Well, me and my brother, we reunited with my mother back in San Francisco, California. She was back in California, but in San Francisco. San Francisco was like a world away from St. Louis and Stamps. San Francisco is where my artistic and independent spirit came alive. Oh, did you know that when I was 15 years old, I was the first African-American female cable car operator? 15 years old, I was coming alive. I was writing my poetry. I was writing my music. And I was singing and I was dancing. Ooh, I think I still got it. And I toured Europe in Porgy and Bess. Yes, yes, yes. And of course, I was active in the civil rights movement. First, briefly with Malcolm X before he was assassinated. And then with the Dr. Martin Luther King. Yes, Dr. King asked me to be the Northern Coordinator for the SCLC. Now, that's the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, baby. I still remember the day I met him. He was shorter than I imagined, but oh, was he fine. Oh, did you know that on my 40th birthday, April 4th, 1968, my Dr. King was assassinated? It was tragic. It was traumatic for me and for our people, for people in this country, for people all over the world. But this time I did not go silent. No, no. I wrote more. And with long conversations with my best friend, James Baldwin, he convinced me to write my own story. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Maybe you've read it. I purged and shared so much. And then I kept on writing, and I wrote the 1972 film, Georgia, Georgia. Yes, I was the first African-American screenplay writer to have a film made. That was my first screenplay. And I was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. Yes, I love to write. I love to tell stories of truth and of hope and of faith and courage and, of course, of love. Maybe you've read some of my poems. Phenomenal Woman. Oh, I walk into a room just as cool as you please. And to a man, the fellows stand, or they fall down on their knees. Then they swarm around me like a hive of honeybees. I say you go get my books and my poems and you read them for yourself. One poem I will share with you today. It's Still I Rise. Every time I read it and recite it, I find something new as well you should when you read poetry. I walk into a room, and you may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may try me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides. Just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my heartiness offend you? Oh, don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I got gold mines digging in my own backyard. See, you may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a path that is rooted in pain, I rise. I am a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that is wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. So why should I feel discouraged? And why should the shadows come? And why should my heart feel lonely and long for my heavenly home? When Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is he. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he's watching over me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know my Lord is watching over me.
How amazing was that? Thank you so much, guys. One love. See you next time. Bye.